We are diving now into a topic that carries different meaning for almost every individual out there. For some, it might be about values. For some, in some countries, culture, religious beliefs. For others, it's just about class and smart decision-making and self-respect. The importance of modesty may seem obvious to you, but here's a question being thrown around lately. Are we addressing the subject completely wrong? My next guests have made it part of their mission to change the stigmas associated with the topic and to help women feel comfortable in their own skin. Joining me are Doctors Lexie and Lindsay Kite. They're the co-directors of Beauty Redefined, which is an online movement to help women and girls recognize they are more than their bodies. This is juicy one. This is a juicy one, ladies. Can we jump right in? Yeah. We have a lot to talk about, and I'm really anxious to hear your perspective and hear your opinion. You have some research, I know, to back up these thoughts and ideas. I guess I'll throw this out first. Is modesty really the root issue here, or is it how we address the conversation surrounding the topic of modesty? You want to take that one?
Lindsay's
I'll jump in on that.
Go for it.
Yeah, modesty, there's no problem with modesty, but the ways we're prescribing it and enforcing it are sometimes causing more problems than people are even aware of. So we've especially lately been seeing really excessively long, detailed dress codes, specifically for girls, where there's maybe one line or a couple words for boys. These are coming out of church groups especially, and just in time for spring dances at schools. And we know that they're being written from a really well-meaning place. People want to make sure everyone's on the same page about what to wear and that everyone looks appropriate. But unfortunately, as we're doing this, when we have these excessively long lists of what girls can wear and can't wear and the skin they can and can't show, what we're doing is sometimes sexualizing girls even further. We know that people are trying to do this because we live in this culture that tells girls that their beauty is the most important thing about them. And so, of course, girls are kind of pushing the boundaries, trying to look as good and as sexy as possible. But when we are breaking them down into parts that can and cannot be seen, we're objectifying those girls. We are reinforcing those messages the world shares, that you are just a body.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'm nodding and agreeing from my heart on the inside out. And if I'm a parent or if I'm a school administrator and I am charged and tasked with the idea of shaping these underdeveloped minds, these young kids, into knowing what's appropriate for what situation, aren't details part of that process?
They certainly can be, but when those details are so focused on what a girl looks like to other people rather than how she feels and what will make a person comfortable in a given setting, especially within professional guidelines, we are actually doing a disservice to girls, because what we're doing is keeping them focused on how they look rather than how they feel and their bodies as instruments. A lot of these guidelines revolve around making other people feel comfortable with what girls are wearing.
As opposed to saying we want you to feel comfortable in what you're wearing.
Yes.
If I'm hosting a black tie event though, and I'm trying to create an atmosphere and someone shows up in sloppy sweats and a t-shirt, doesn't that sort of become about other people from a dress code perspective?
Sure, but that person wearing a supposedly sloppy dress is probably going to feel more uncomfortable than the rest of the people in the room. So we really want to get the focus back on making sure girls are valued as more than just bodies to view, and definitely let them know that their agency and their value comes from more than their sexual appeal, so that they can make healthier and more appropriate choices in terms of their dress for themselves.
And we have some ideas about how to do that.
Please, yeah, I'd love to know.
We want to dig into these ideas. So the one thing we can do, if we're talking about modesty, if we're enforcing it in any way, is to do this from a place of love. Love for girls and women, love for boys and men. When you come at this from a place of love for girls and women, dig into the research that tells you more about what modesty can do for a girl or a woman, and you will find out that clothing is actually a protector against this big word, self-objectification. Self-objectification happens when girls and women grow up living in a state of being looked at. They're monitoring their bodies as if other people are looking at them, even when other people aren't looking at them.
And I really like that perspective. We don't often tie those two together, modesty and self-objectification. You've done some research on that.
Yes, self-objectification holds girls and women back in every conceivable way. They are held back in school, in sports and physical activities. They sit on the sidelines of their lives for fear of being looked at or in being too fixated on their bodies. So when we talk about modesty from a place where we are saying, we want you to feel comfortable, we want you to not be distracted during your math test, during this fun swim meet you're going to, in whatever it is, we can come at this from a much more helpful place.
So if I'm understanding you, the dress code might say something like skirts to a certain length so you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think we can say something more like, we want everybody to feel comfortable and look appropriately. We can do that by making sure that everybody follows these certain dress codes, because we want you to have fun and do and be, and not be so fixated on making sure everything looks
So it's
perfectly
the treatment.
right.
It's how
it's
we're
the treatment.
talking about it.
Yes.
It's how we're presenting
Totally.
it.
Yeah, and I think we also need to take boys and men into consideration in this conversation, because so many of these really excessive dress codes are actually just saying that boys and men are going to be distracted by your body parts if they're showing. And that's the way sometimes these dress codes are enforced, in ways that end up humiliating girls who weren't intending to look inappropriate, but somebody perceived that they might look distracting to boys and men. I think we need to express love and confidence in boys and men, that they can be in control of their own attention, that they can control their own thoughts and actions regardless of what anyone is wearing in their presence.
What can parents do? I mean, I personally believe this conversation should start at home and be enforced at home. So how can parents do a better job about taking that love first approach, or that positive tone?
Parents can be pretty straight up with their kids, I think. I think parents can be clear that, yeah, we live in this culture that tells girls your beauty and your body is the most important thing about you, but I don't want you to believe that about yourself. We also live in this culture that sells clothing to girls that is objectifying, that is sexualizing, when boys are given clothes that are utilitarian and are there to make them feel comfortable, not just to look sexually appealing to other people. So teach girls about that messaging that's coming in from the outside, so that they can learn to recognize it and then reject it, so that they can make choices for their own bodies that make them feel comfortable and capable and strong, rather than just making sure they look appealing to whoever's looking at them. That can be a huge distraction.
What's the feedback you ladies are getting as you push this message forward? And you're doing it in a positive way. I applaud you for that.
It's been amazing. You know, when we started sharing these messages about modesty on our website 7 years ago, people pushed back hard.
Yeah.
They did not like the research that we were sharing with them. And in the last 7 years, so many of the most conservative and the most radical people have come on board this fight and said, you know what, I do love girls and women, and I do love boys and men, and I do believe that we are all more than bodies, to be looked at, to be fixed, to be judged, to be discarded. It's been really empowering.
Well, thank you for sharing that message here today. Beauty Redefined is where this conversation will continue. We'll link you over from our website. Thanks again, ladies.
Thank you.